Vice President Yemi Osinbajo receives Economic Sustainability Plan update as MDA's report progress with over 2 million jobs saved or created so far. All states on course to get 1.7 billion naira minimum for survival fund. CEO of Binance, Changpeng Zhao, now reaches crypto billionaire as Asia's richest man, and he has hit net worth of over $96 billion. Plus oil prices rise as risk appetite rises. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Leah Katung. Baba Tunde. In the first meeting of the Economic Sustainability Committee in 2022, federal ministers and heads of agencies have reported further progress in the implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan of the federal government as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo presided over a virtual meeting of the committee at the Presidential Villa on Monday. A statement by Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media Publicity, Office of the Vice President Laolu Akonde, recalls that President Muhammadu Buhari had in June 2020 mandated the Vice President as Chair of the Economic Sustainability Committee to coordinate the implementation of the ESP aimed at cushioning the effects of the global pandemic. Highlights of the presentations by MDAs include the report that about 2.1 million jobs have been retained or created through the implementation of the ESP that is aimed at cushioning the effects. Also highlighted is the approval of 10 billion naira by the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority (NSIA) to fund the deployment and local assembly of 200,000 off-grid solar home systems under the Solar Power Niger partnership between both the NSIA and the Rural Electrification Agency (REA). Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment Mariam Katagum disclosed that while all states of the Federation have received varying levels of the 75 billion naira survival fund with its different schemes, eventually all states will soon receive a minimum of 1.7 billion naira cumulative from all the schemes. Lagos, Abia and Kano states have already crossed the bar, with Lagos reaching over 2.5 billion naira. No state so far has received anything less than 1 billion naira. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, noted that the Rapid Response Register component under the ESP has since commenced, with 374,759 beneficiaries paid so far and another 391,185 Nigerians earmarked for payment soon. Nigeria and Greece have signed agreements to support economic development to address existing import-export imbalances. This was at a meeting between Nigeria and the Greek Foreign Affairs ministers.
Basis, a very strong basis to build on this bond between our two countries, to re-dynamize the relationship between our two countries.
We consider you as a neighbor, and we consider you as a neighbor because we see the Mediterranean Sea not as a dividing border, but as a connecting bridge. We very well appreciate that Africa is the fastest growing economy in the world. Nigeria is the biggest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. You are the biggest country in Africa. We are not that big, but we're a proud member of the European Union.
And the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, in continuation of the reviews of its operational activities for the year 2021, has disclosed it has recovered the sum of more than 150 billion naira. The monies recovered include the sum of more than $300 million and more than £1 million between January and December 2021. A statement by the head of media and publicity of the Commission, Wilson Wajaran, says the recovery basket also included a digital currency component of Bitcoin and Ethereum. The headquarters operation dominated the recoveries with more than 67 billion naira, followed by Lagos Command, which led the Naira recoveries with more than 70 billion naira, while the Kaduna Zonal Command emerged third in terms of recoveries. Giving an overview of the Commission's performance, the Executive Chairman Abdul Rashid Bawa explained that the monies included direct and indirect recoveries for the different tiers of government, corporate organizations, and individuals within the year under review. And oil prices climbed on Tuesday, with investors regaining some risk appetite as they await clues from the U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman on potential interest rate rises, and some oil producers continue to struggle to beef up output. Brent crude futures gained 40 cents or 0.5% to $81.27 a barrel after dropping 1% in the previous session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 52 cents or 0.7% to $78.75 a barrel after falling 0.8% on Monday. A weaker U.S. dollar helped support oil prices on Tuesday as it makes oil cheaper for those holding other currencies. And still on commodities, while gas prices drop in Nigeria, prices surge again in Europe, leaving some business owners terrified for the future. Meanwhile, soybeans prices edged higher on Tuesday, corn gained grounds while wheat prices dropped. Here's a look at prices on the commodity markets. The 2022 federal government budget, titled Economic Growth and Sustainability, was signed into law and presented to the public just last week. The aggregate expenditure is estimated at 17.1 trillion naira, which is 18% higher than the 2021 aggregate expenditure of 14.6 trillion naira. The assumptions for the budget include an oil price benchmark of $62 per barrel at 1.9 million barrels per day in oil production. Our focus this morning on the program is on the oil market, the price assumption vis-a-vis current rising oil prices, and of course the general outlook for the year 2022. Our guest is no other person than Engineer Emmanuel Nwosu. He is the Executive Secretary, Civil Society Engagement Platform. It is so good to have you join us this morning on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
And I say welcome back from the holidays.
Yes, you too.
Okay, great. So perhaps we start by you telling us, give us your take on the performance of the oil market, particularly in Nigeria last year, before we get into this year.
Basically, let me speak from the perspective of a non-initiate, an ordinary citizen. Because if we talk about oil in Nigeria, we know we're talking about everything about economy, because we are just dependent on oil. We had last year a country that has reasonably done well in terms of government managing what we used to have as crisis every end of year in the oil sector. So we came out of last year at least looking good, reasonably, okay? But in general perspective, I think from the indices we have seen or we saw, we look forward to something better
Of course.
Because the government has also put up, a law which we call the PIB, that, is now PIA, that has taken care of a couple of issues that bugged our oil sector. So hopefully, moving into the new year with the limited NMPC as a limited liability company now, we should see a better oil sector and a better economy for the country.
Okay, so since you've gone to the PIA, perhaps I take my next question from there. How do you see the PIA affecting the performance of the sector this year? What are those critical roles that the ordinary citizen is expected to see?
Yeah, basically, if we look at the critical areas of the PIA which should affect positively the sector, the creation of the upstream and downstream commissions, and then the arrangement that will take care of the oil producing communities. I think those are the important areas, because everything that has caused problems in the sector has always been that oil communities are not taken care of. There's a lot of crisis in the production section and sometimes in the distribution. So if we have a good regulation, because the problem is always regulation, it's not about the law. Because, not just in Nigeria, if you look out, you see that all over the globe, most oil-rich countries have not impacted their citizens with the oil wealth because of corruption. So it's good that the PIA has come with these areas that are expected to take good care of the sector if we have good citizens running those commissions. In telecom, we have NCC. We know what we're still suffering in the sector. So it's not just about the law, it is about the implementers of the law. So I'm hopeful that with those commissions, the upstream, downstream, and then the creation of the fund that will take care of the communities, host communities, we'll see a very good upsurge in our income through oil.
Okay, so talking about our income now, just last year, the statistics, at least put forward by the government, pointed us to the fact that the non-oil revenue actually exceeded or would I say superseded the oil revenue, and we're already seeing projections that is going to happen this year if everything goes well, right? So, really, how will the oil sector now support the non-oil sector?
I don't really believe that we have done well in the non-oil sector. I don't know who is giving us those indices.
In terms of the money is coming from there.
Yeah, but, politics aside, I believe that we have a long way to go talking about the non-oil sector. Very long way to go. We are still 80 to 90% dependent on oil. That is the truth. So if we really want to do a good job, this is the time to harvest what we have now and use it to develop what we don't have, because we don't have a very vibrant non-oil sector. We don't generate so much. We're talking about income coming from custom, FIRS, and a few others. That is not non-oil sector. We should, apart from agric, understand that the global economy is now resting on technology. We have to develop our technology as income earner, and we have to use the money we're getting from oil now to do that. We have not started. It's so unfortunate because most of the people in government don't listen. They don't listen to the civil society. They don't listen to private sector experts. Everybody just does his thing and takes a walk. And we just rigmarole. We'll remain in this roller coaster, not developing our non-oil sector and hoping that, we still have oil reserve, we have gas, and nothing will change. Things are changing, and it will catch us unawares if we don't understand that the whole world is moving green. Very soon, our oil will quite all right be there, but the demand will be too low. People will tell you, I don't use petroleum products again, either for my engines or my vehicles, so you can keep it in your country. Before that happens, we need to harvest that huge economy now and move it into technology. We're doing fairly well in agric, but we need to develop technology.
Okay, while we develop our technologies, in the oil market, there's been the supply and demand concerns, particularly from unrest in Kazakhstan and, of course, the Libya issue that has refused to go away. Do you see that in any way affecting us here?
Basically, anytime Kazakhstan is one of the world's biggest exporters of oil, producers. If there's crisis there, there's crisis in Libya. Basically, we expect that OPEC must react. And when OPEC reacts, it is to cushion production in it. So countries like Nigeria benefits. So our price will come up and we earn more money. But you see, this is not what I expect a country to rely on. Oh, if there's crisis here, we produce more oil and then we make more money. What do we use the money for? So to answer the question straight, yes, there's always a ripple effect. When there's crisis in an area like that, of course, some other areas we need to cushion. I mean, prices have gone up. Nigeria may be asked to produce more, and that means more money.
But technically, is that more money for us when we don't refine?
Well,
locally?
it is more money in terms of crude export.
All right.
The other area of refinement and
So
refining.
that also sends our expenditure up.
Exactly anyway.
Yes.
Exactly anyway.
Okay, so while we see this rising demand, our budgets basically this year predicated less than $70, and throughout the year we've been selling above $70. What will be the implications for these, and what will also be the implications for us later in the year when the demand drops?
Simple economics tells us that when you have more income, you save more. Yes. So that when the income goes down, you can now fall back on your savings. So for me, if a benchmark was $70 and now we have been operating above that, that means we have some markup. So the government is expected to harvest. I am worried as an individual that I still see lots of borrowing coming. When we have these markups, I don't understand it. We're still looking at the government to explain to some of us what is going on. We hear there's need to develop infrastructure. Honestly speaking, we can harvest what we have in this country without borrowing. I'm sorry I'm divesting, but the truth is, some of us in the civil society are angry. You know, we're not happy because we have a benchmark that we're lucky that we have exceeded. And it's looking like we'll still top more on what we had projected. What do we do with that? Isn't it to harvest it and put it to where we will call either savings or good development of our alternative income source?
Perhaps we just wait out and see how the first quarter will end if we keep to the desired plan of sustaining our borrowing levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most sincerely, thank you for coming on the program today.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Engineer Emmanuel Nwosu. Thank you for coming on Business
My pleasure.
Express. And
Thank
have
you.
a nice day.
Thank you.
Great. So, Philip Nwokocha owns a printing press and is into graphics design, general printing and branding, a company he founded in 2017. Well, let's hear his surviving COVID-19 story.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Business before COVID was a bit fair. Reason being that we had plans and we're hatching the plans as the day unfolds. Do you get? And then we're even having plan for the next month. For example, there was a contract I was supposed to do at that time, and there was this equipment I secured, and that equipment you don't pack it for 2 weeks without operating it. But this equipment was packed for 3 months. I sold it as scrap. When the pandemic came, my business was even shut down for 4 months, because even when the whole stuff was called off, our complex, our working premises was still shut down for a whole month plus. So we stayed home. By the time we resumed, most of our equipment was off. we couldn't make use of most of them. Staff were complaining of salaries, even salary they wanted upkeep aside salary, even those you've paid, they needed something to to keep them going. But and then you are the boss, you need to provide solution. So well, I sat in word, tried to come up with strategies. I went to seek for partnership, I seek for loan, and then even I got to the bank was like, they can't give loan now because of the pandemic. I said, okay, what do? I put call to relations, and everybody have one problem or the other to solve. Everybody. For some persons, what they just needed was to eat. One thing I would say that worked for us is courage. While I was seeking for loan, I also learned about the federal government's intervention loan through the CBN. And they were disbursing that loan through NASA. So I even went for the training. Yes, I went for the training with some colleagues and we did apply. But, for the fact that I didn't get the loan, or I'm yet to get the loan, I wouldn't say the loan is not visible. I believe everybody will contribute to society through solving of one problem or the other. I may not have gotten where I am going right now, but there is an idea I'm trying to build out there when it comes to the printing industry. That is one of my driving force. And then I've chosen this occupation to do it. And it's something I intend to do for the rest of my life. So the passion, the courage, the determination, I've got all of them.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Nigerian equities kicked off the week on Monday on a bullish note with Bagain buying on Dangote Cement and other 27 stocks logging marginal gains at 0.1% to see the all-share index climb 43,897.13 points. 311 million shares valued at 8.6 billion were traded in 5,159 deals. Equity capitalization also rose to 23.65 trillion naira. Boer Foods continued to dominate activities in volume and value and was trailed by a distant Transco and Zenith Bank. Well, we hope that the bulls remain dominant as the numbers begin to come in this morning. Meanwhile, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has announced plans to launch a revised version of the 10-year Capital Market Master Plan in 2022 to reflect the dynamism of the market and development in fintech, among others. This is as stockbrokers express support for the introduction of regulatory charges on fixed income securities by the regulator. Speaking on the revised master plan, SEC Director General Lamido Yuguda, in a statement said, as the year 2022 commences, the Commission is confident that the results of the various initiatives implemented will begin to gradually manifest, spurring developments in many aspects of the markets. And we move straight to the global market with Nekauko.
Global markets are fixated this week on the latest U.S. inflation data due out this week, just as the latest U.S. Consumer Price Index is set for release Wednesday and the Producer Price Index slated for Thursday. European stocks are expected to open higher on Tuesday as investors look ahead to the next U.S. inflation reading on Wednesday. The UK's FTSE index is seen opening 31 points higher at 7,464. Germany's DAX 78 points higher and France's CAC 40 up 44 points. Asian markets were mixed across board on Tuesday as investors remain concerned about inflation as well as likely policy tightening from central banks such as the U.S. Federal Reserve. Japan's Nikkei 225 declined 0.9%. The Shanghai Composite was fractionally lower by 0.77%, while in Hong Kong the Hang Seng Index slipped 0.58%. Tuesday's session in Asia followed overnight declines in the US, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average and S&P 500 fell, but the Nasdaq Composite finished fractionally higher in regular trading. African markets have just opened, but are yet to post numbers.
Thank you, Neka, and we drop the anchor here. Business Express returns tomorrow at 3 p.m. Be safe out there.